When I found out that I was a vicious female supporting role, the weather was cold, and it was time to bankrupt the male lead's family and his female lead by Yu Guang. When I was about to enter the marriage hall with the male lead, I awakened my memory as a vicious female supporting role. The little white flower female lead came to grab the bride, crying and saying that she was the male lead's true love, and I decisively chose to let go. She didn't know that the male lead's family was about to go bankrupt, and she could only survive by marrying my family. Looking at the figures of the two people going away in the chaotic wedding scene, I couldn't help but sigh. This video is a little long, so I will send you my blessings first. May all friends be rich and loved, and good luck always be with you. Mr. Virgin Mary, are you willing to marry Miss? Whether she will be rich or poor in the future, whether she will be healthy or not in the future, are you willing to be with her forever? At the wedding scene, the MC was reciting the same classic lines. Before the Virgin Mary said the three words, I do, a sharp female voice suddenly came from the door of the church. AMU, a girl in a white gauze dress and holding flowers, appeared at the door of the church. I don't know if it was a coincidence or intentional. The gauze dress she was wearing was very similar to my wedding dress today, as if she was the heroine of this wedding. The guests in the venue whispered to each other and kept looking at the three of us. The elders from both the Lu and Sheng families frowned and suppressed their anger. I glanced at the Virgin Mary indifferently in her eyes at this time. Her fiancé, wedding, and parents were all thrown aside. She only saw the girl in a white gauze dress, crying and calling him AMU. The girl walked firmly to the side of the Virgin Mary, airlocked her fingers with him, then turned to look at me neither humbly nor arrogantly. Ms. Lu, I am the Virgin Mary's girlfriend, Shen Shenjing. I've known you for a long time. I didn't even give him a glance, still looking at the Virgin Mary, and said coldly, furious, explain. Cheng Mu frowned and looked at Shen Jingyu. Didn't I tell you to have a good rest in the villa? It's so windy today. You don't even put on a coat when you go out. As he said that, he took off his suit jacket very gentlemanly and put it on Shen Jingyu. Jaihar Shen Shiyu's eyes were filled with tears, and she was about to fall. You still said, if I hadn't watched TV, I wouldn't have known that you were going to marry another woman. After saying that, she turned to look at me with a firm face. Ms. Lu, as you can see, AMU and I are really in love. I know you are engaged to him, and I also know that you are actually a business marriage and have no feelings at all. Perhaps in the eyes of you upper-class people, money is everything. But Miss Lu, I want to tell you that a marriage with only money and no love will not be happy. Forcing you to be tied together will only make both of you suffer. The person AMU has always loved is me, and I only love him. I hope you can find your own happiness. I looked at Shen Jingyu with a half smile. How do you know that a marriage with only money will not be happy? You don't have any money. Shen Jingyu choked for a moment, then stood up straighter. Emotions cannot be measured by money. I love the Virgin Mary as a person, not his money. As she said, she turned her head and looked at the Virgin Mary with affection. I am you. I know that you have always been controlled by your family and can't breathe, but your life belongs to you, not a bargaining chip for commercial exchange. Being with Miss Lu will only make all three of us unhappy. You should bravely choose the path you want to take. If the Virgin Mary had some hesitation before, she was completely moved by Shen Jingyu's words at this moment. She turned her head to look at me, said sorry, and then took Shen Jingyu's hand without hesitation and left the church. Looking at the figures of the two people going away in the chaotic wedding scene, I couldn't help but sigh. What a big drama of running for love, but this time they may not be so smooth. Half an hour before the wedding, a memory suddenly woke up in my mind. This world is a book, and I am a vicious female supporting role, and the protagonists are Sheng Jingyu and Sheng Mu. From Shen Jingyu's perspective, this book is like this. The innocent little white flower encounters a domineering president, and after a series of tugs and pulls such as plundering, escaping, and chasing, the two finally get their wish. At this time, a fiancé female supporting role, that is, me, suddenly appeared halfway and targeted the heroine. The heroine was heartbroken and turned to the gentle embrace of the second male lead, but she didn't expect that the second male lead was actually the brother of the vicious female supporting role and had been oppressed by the domineering female supporting role since childhood. The second male lead and the female lead found that they had a common enemy, the vicious female supporting role, so they worked together to bring down the female supporting role. The male and female protagonists finally got married, and the second male lead silently protected the heroine. From my perspective, this book is like this. As the only daughter of the Lu group, I have been trained as an heir since I was a child. However, when I was 18, my mother passed away. Within half a year, my father took the illegitimate son home. His name was Lu Ju, and he was only 3 months younger than me. While my mother was pregnant, the man cheated on his wife and even named the illegitimate son Ju, which has the same radical as my Yu. Lu Ju is very dull and inferior to me in every way, but he is a boy. Although Xiao Yu is good, she's a girl after all and will get married in the future. Ju is just young and playful now. Boys are like this. They like to play at ordinary times, but they are much better than girls when they are serious. In order to pave the way for his beloved son, my father even personally suppressed and marginalized my position in the group. Fortunately, the Lu group is not controlled by that man alone. In addition to my father, there is also my grandfather. The old man is a very pedantic person. On the one hand, he also holds the idea that it is still necessary to rely on boys to inherit the incense, and on the other hand, he is quite sentimental. I was raised by him, and the friendship is extraordinary. But this friendship was only enough to keep him neutral in the fight between me and Lu Ju. If I wanted him to completely fall to my side, I needed more bargaining chips. The Holy Mother was my bargaining chip. The Holy Mother and the Holy Mother's families were old friends, and the two old men were once comrades in arms, and their friendship was deep. When the two old men were drunk, they once mentioned that the younger generations of the two families should get married. But later, the Holy Mother's family gradually declined, and the Holy Mother, like my useless brother, was good-looking but useless. She usually put on a lot of face, but when there was something wrong in the company, she would just say, "Ask my secretary to solve it." After all these years of squandering, the Holy Mother's family had long been at the end of the road, with only a flower stem left. If it were in the past, a playboy like the Holy Mother who was idle and flirted with women everywhere would not be in my eyes at all. But in order to get the support of the old man, I could only pick up garbage with reluctance. The Holy Family naturally did not lose out by marrying into the Lu family. They could obtain a large amount of cash flow support. And I also promised that after obtaining the inheritance rights of the Lu family, I would immediately divorce the Holy Mother and pay him a large sum of money. And all the Holy Mother had to do was to pay attention to her words and deeds and avoid philandering during the continuation of our marriage. But I didn't expect that he would actually do something weird to me at the wedding. The Holy Mother dragged the heroine away for love, leaving me alone to clean up the mess. Although I wanted to sweep this waste with no contract spirit into the trash can, I still endured it. He still needed this bargaining chip. As for Shan Jingyu, she was just a little-brained person who treated garbage as treasure, and I didn't see her. But I really didn't expect that this love-brained person could be related to my illegitimate brother. Sure enough, idiots are attracted to each other. The three of them started to join forces. Although it was said that three cobblers can be better than one's Zhou Liang, the Virgin Mary persuaded the Holy Family to support Lu Ju, and the old man of the Holy Family persuaded my old man to support Lu Ju. The originally balanced scale finally fell to Lu Ju's side. And the first thing he did after he came to power was to announce to the public that I was crazy. I was locked up in the most strict and dark mental hospital, where I spent the rest of my life hopelessly. To be honest, when these memories emerged in my mind, my first feeling was not anger or hatred, but frustration, furious, useless, and without the spirit of contract. Love brain, Lu Ju, useless and illegitimate. Love brain, Shen Jingyu, useless and justified to be a mistress. Love brain. When I think of how I have worked hard for so many years and finally lost to three love brains, I feel indescribable frustration in my heart. But since God has awakened the memories in the book for me, it means that God can no longer bear to see the love brain harming the world. In this case, wouldn't it be a waste if we don't throw those three little brains into the trash and retrain them? After finally cleaning up the mess of the wedding, I called the parents of the Holy Mother right away. Uncle and Aunt, let's cancel the wedding of the Holy Mother and me, and I may have to reconsider the financing that was promised before. The Holy Father and the Holy Mother had been waiting for my call in fear. When they heard me say that I wanted to cancel the engagement, they immediately said nervously, "Xiao Yu, don't be impulsive. The Holy Mother is just young, and she has been seduced by those questionable women outside. We will persuade her well. When she changes her mind in the future, she will know that you, Xiao Yu, are the most suitable for her. Young, just hire a few more nannies for her. I don't have the leisure to change diapers for a giant baby." I said mercilessly, the wedding in Hishenglu was originally a business marriage, and both parties got what they needed. Since you didn't abide by the rules first, don't blame me for turning my back on you. The contract details the amount of compensation to be paid in case of breach of contract, and I will let my lawyer talk to you in detail at that time. That's it. I have a few meetings to attend in the afternoon, and I'm hanging up. I ignored the other side's pleading and pressed the hang up button. Oh, in my last life, in order to keep the bargaining chip of the Holy Mother, I chose to swallow my anger. Not only did I insist on not canceling the engagement, but I also increased my investment in Sheng Shi in order to please the parents of the Xing family. What was the result? The money I gave them was soon transferred by the Holy Mother to Shen Jingyu, who was hiding outside, and Shen Jingyu happily took my money and spent it with the Holy Mother. Later, because Shen Xingyu was pregnant, the Sheng family immediately changed their faces, recognized this daughter-in-law, and turned to help Lu Ju. "I'm sorry, my Sheng family is a nest of ungrateful wolves. Without my support this time, I want to see how long they can jump." After announcing the news of a cancellation of the engagement to the outside world and appeasing the old man and my biological father internally, I began to act like nothing happened. I went to work every day, attended meetings, worked overtime, and suppressed Lu Ju when I should. To outsiders, I seemed to have completely let go of this matter, but in fact, I had been sending people to secretly watch the Holy Mother and Sheng Xingyu, the two hid in City A, which is half of China away from here. Strangely enough, no one was looking for them. After I announced the end of my engagement with the Holy Mother, the two could have openly announced that they were together, but for some reason the two just hid far away. Although the Xing family had been trying hard to persuade Shengmu to break up with Shen Jingyu, with their brainless love for their son, if Sheng Ho insisted on it, if Sheng Hua insisted on it, the Holy Father and the Holy Mother would have to compromise in the end. But after reading the messages sent by the private detective, I roughly understood the situation. Shenjin, you always felt that Shenpo, a waste who had relied on his family's money since he was a child and had nothing to eat or clothes to wear, was very pitiful. Although he had a lot of money and lived a life far better than most people, he had lost his freedom. Shenjin, you encouraged the Holy Mother. "I believe in your ability. You can make a career outside first. When you prove your strength, uncles and aunts will definitely not force you to get married. I am willing to work hard with you. Let's create a future together from scratch, okay?" The son of Sheng Da has been wandering in the entertainment industry for many years. No woman has ever said that she wants to suffer with him. He was deeply moved and vowed to start from scratch and make a career. When I saw this message, I was silent. The Holy Mother, I knew, was unlearned and idle. She might not enter her own company once a month and was not attentive to business dealings. But in front of Shang Shino shown himself to be a wicked, arrogant, confident, greasy, and wealthy boss. He was a big idiot who spent a lot of money. He was a black-hearted boss who left everything to his personal secretary, asked the secretary to get up in the middle of the night to work overtime without paying overtime, and fired people for a disagreement. Just relying on these, how did Shen Xingyu see that Sheng Mu had the ability to start from scratch? Is it because Sheng Mu has a face that looks like an elite? However, his self-satisfied and superior elite appearance is all built up by money. Anyone who has enough assets and whose family is willing to invest in education, goes to the top schools, has the best educational resources, plays equestrian in skiing and other so-called high-end sports that require a lot of money, eats and wears exquisite and elegant clothes, and is surrounded by This kind of brilliance built up by money can really make a person look decent, not to mention people. Even dogs can pretend to be aristocratic. But when the brilliance of money fades, the things inside will soon show their true color. She is nothing. The Virgin Mary said that she would start from scratch, but in fact, all the startup funds were given privately by Cheng's mother. Shangxi Group was already in danger, and the Virgin Mary kept giving money to her son. I really don't know how long they can last. Sheng Kuan and Sheng Shenjing were immersed in the great enthusiasm of starting a business. I only sent people to watch them and did not intervene too much because I believe that they can mess things up without my intervention. But Lu Ju was different. It was not until he saw Shen Jingyu on the wedding day that he knew that the goddess in his heart was actually in a relationship with the Holy Mother. Lu Ju was lost on the one hand, and on the other hand, he was very concerned about where Shen Jingyu went after she disappeared. In order to prevent people from finding her, Shen Jingyu and the Holy Mother exchanged all contact information. During this period, Lu Ju had been sending people outside to look for the two, but they never found anything, of course. I also contributed to this. Let Lu Ju find them, and then the three of them will unite to deal with me again? It's a beautiful idea. This time, I will not let him have the opportunity to see Shen Jingyu unless it is a critical moment. Lu Ju was worried about Shen Jingyu, and he was absent from every day. He made more mistakes in his ordinary work. Even his father, who usually doted on his son the most, had to scold him in front of all the shareholders. I took the opportunity to seize a lot of power from him. Shang's parents pestered me every day, persuading me not to be impulsive and continue to be their son's savior. They even wanted to put pressure on me through the old man of the Liu family, but I pushed them all back. After ruining several orders from Shangxi Group and teaching Shang's parents a lesson, they finally behaved themselves and dared not appear in front of me again. After a few months of uneventful life, I finally got the news I wanted Sheng Mu's small company went bankrupt. He was ambitious and unrealistic. He had no ability and loved to exploit employees. The company had been open for a few months, but he didn't make a penny and even owed hundreds of thousands of debt. In the past, Xiangmu could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a night, and he really didn't care about this little money. He used to call his family to ask for money, but soon he got a bad news that was devastating. The Shang family was going bankrupt. Not to mention the company, even the villain car he lived in were all taken away by the bank to pay off the debt. The Sheng family went bankrupt so quickly, and I did have a small contribution. When I was reading the original book, I couldn't help but sigh many times. Secretary Wang beside the Virgin Mary is such a talent. However, no matter how unreasonable the task assigned by the boss is, he can complete it properly. Although the boss is a hopeless person, he still works hard to hold up half of Shangxi. Wouldn't it be a waste for such a talent to stay in Shangxi and work like a slave and get a monthly salary of 8,000? So I decisively offered dozens of times the salary to dig Secretary Wang over. Secretary Wang is a cautious person. He did not agree immediately, but asked a bunch of questions in a roundabout way. The most important one is, are you poaching me out of your appreciation of my ability or out of revenge against the Sheng family? Both. I said frankly, I won't delay official business for personal grudge sim looking for you because you must have something I like. If it doesn't affect official business, a little venting of personal anger can also be a win-win situation. As far as I know, Secretary Wang has a lot of dissatisfaction with President Sheng, right? Secretary Wang's glasses flashed coldly, as if he recalled countless past violations of the labor law. Happy cooperation. I curved my lips. I recruited Secretary Wang not to let him join the Liu group as my secretary. I figured it out. President Sheng, a useless waste, has the courage to start from scratch. I am richer, more capable, more experienced, and have more connections than him, so why can't I? I don't want to give up the inheritance of the Liu group because I can't watch my mother accompany my father through so much hardship and everything she got fall into the hands of an illegitimate child. But at the same time, I don't want to have to look at the faces of the old man and my father and everything. So I was still in Liu group on the surface. But secretly, I started to establish my own company. I was only responsible for the behind-the-scenes work, and Secretary Wang was in charge of all the things on the surface. He had the talent to manage the company, and most of the things in Shaoxi were done by him in the past. But the Virgin Mary only used him like a nanny, and the salary he received was pitifully low. Now, he can finally let go and display his ambitions, and he is full of energy. Under his advice, I poached a lot of practical talents from Shengxi Group. In the end, only some relatives who were just sitting there doing nothing were left. She was like a sinking ship. I took away the most core skeleton, and finally it couldn't hold up and collapsed. The Holy Father and the Holy Mother were desperate and came to me for alms. Shall you, Auntie, please help the Holy Master when Amu comes back? I will make him treat you well. I know that you are a child who values feelings the most and will not stand idly by. Right, TSKDS. What you said, not ly by. Will I stay DSKU, I will stand idly by, I will also, and I will also, I will also insult to injury. Looking at the tearful Holy Mother, I smiled slightly. Auntie, Demi, do you think I look like a garbage collector? The Holy Father's face flushed reignly, where your face flashed red, the face flushed red. I turned back to the office. Secretary Wang knocked on the door and handed me a document. Mr. Lu, the list of assets that Shengxi is selling has been sorted out. Which projects do you think need to be followed up? I glanced at the densely packed list and stopped at the Coastal Resort Development Project. I have seen the preliminary research of this project. The environmental impact assessment and planning are very complete. It just lacks an execution team. Poach Zhang Gong's team, who was originally responsible for this project in Shengxi. They have experience. Secretary Wang nodded and took notes, and then said, for Shangmu on Shengjingyu, private detectives reported that they have run out of ammunition and food. Shensheng Shenpo, you see reactions. Shengmu looked for a job for half a month, but no company hired him. I turned the pen and suddenly remembered the sneer that Shengmu gave me outside the mental hospital in my previous life. At that time, he held the check handed to him by Lu Ju, and his eyes were as sinister as a snake. Let the finance department prepare a sum of money, I suddenly said, and transfer it to Shen Jingyu's account anonymously. Secretary Wang looked up, and a trace of doubt flashed in his eyes behind the glasses. It's not charity, I sneered. But for someone like Shengmu, once he finds out that he's a gigolo, it will be harder than bankruptcy. 3 days later, a dramatic scene really appeared on the surveillance footage. Zhang Huo held up his cell phone and yelled at Shen Jingyu, with the screen showing the text message records of the bank account. Have you been hooking up with another man for a long time? He smashed the bottle against the wall, and the glass shards splashed on Shen Jingyu's bulging belly. Where else would the money come from? You're not pretending to suffer with me, but you're really trying to catch a rich man. Shen Jingyu curled up in the corner, her face full of tears, but she no longer begged for mercy. This was the first time she didn't jump up and hug Shengmu's legs. I turned off the surveillance and opened the Lu's internal mailbox. My father just sent a new email, and the attachment was the quarterly financial report compiled by Lu Ju. The numbers on the report were full of loopholes, and even an intern could see the trick. I forwarded it to the audit department and added a note. Please strictly check the flow of assets. Less than half an hour later, the old man called me. Xiaoyu A. Jude is young, and it is inevitable that he will be impatient. As a sister, you should bear more responsibility. Grandpa, I interrupted him. Lu's rule is to appoint people based on their merits. You taught me that. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment, and a sigh came before hanging up. 2 weeks later, the Virgin Mary finally put down her airs as the young master of the Shing family and went to the construction site to move bricks. In the surveillance video, he was wearing a worn t-shirt, his back soaked with sweat, and he squatted in the corner with a group of migrant workers eating steamed buns. Shen Zhangxingyu was 6 months pregnant and worked as a cashier at a convenience store. Under the cash register was a tin box of soda crackers. I asked someone to put it there anonymously, because pregnant women can't eat instant noodles every day. On a rainy night, a turning point came. Shen Hu rushed into the convenience store soaking wet and shouted to Shen Jingyu, who was restocking, I have a job. The newly opened bar in the east of the city is recruiting security guards. I will go to work tomorrow. Shen Jingyu was stunned, and the milk carton in her hand fell to the ground with a click. I stared at the screen, watching Shengmu dancing with joy, and suddenly remembered that he was dressed in a suit and tie at the wedding in his previous life. People really only show their true colors when they are in desperate situations. But the real fun is yet to come. I asked Secretary Wang to contact Sheng as a mysterious investor and proposed to inject capital into his startup. Of course, all the documents were set up as legal track. Sheng really took the bait, and his pen tip was shaking when he signed the contract. He didn't know that those so-called entrepreneurship plans were all junk projects forged by me, and what he signed was a contract to sell himself into the abyss. On the day Lu Ju was imprisoned, I went to the detention center. Behind the iron bars, his eyes no longer had the arrogance of the past. Sister, I was wrong. It's not you who's wrong. I looked at the bruises on his wrists, left by the fight with the Virgin Mary. You all underestimated me too much. When I walked out of the detention center, the sunset stretched my shadow very long. When Secretary Wang said that at the last ass auction of Shengxi, we won the coastal resort project at 1/3 of the market price. The news of Sheng Shengyi's miscarriage came in the early morning. She fainted in a convenience store and was bleeding heavily when she was sent to the hospital. I asked someone to pay for the operation, and when I looked at the photo of her being pushed into the operating room, I suddenly remembered what she said when she was kidnapped. Feelings cannot be measured by money. Now she finally knows that without money, even her life cannot be saved. 3 months later, the video of Shenwu being chased by loan sharks went viral on the internet. He knelt on the ground, with someone stepping on his head with a leather shoe and a pile of forged business failure certificates in front of him. Someone recognized him in the comment section. Isn't this the loser from the Sheng family? I heard that his wife ran away after she had a miscarriage, and now he is chased and beaten by creditors every day. I turned off the video and opened the list of the annual commendation meeting of the Lu Group. Secretary Wang was indeed ranked first, and his annual salary has risen to 7 figures. On the day when Lu Ju was sentenced to 13 years, his father had a heart attack and was admitted to the hospital. I listened to his quarrel with the old man outside the ward. You spoiled him. Now Lu is going to fall into the hands of a woman. Woman? I pushed the door open and threw the latest financial statements on the bedside table. Lu is in my hands, and the market value has increased by 47 compared to last year. Dad, what you should worry about is not the gender of the heir, but your own body. After all, you are still waiting to see the centenary celebration of Lu. When I walked out of the hospital, the night wind was cool. A news popped up on my phone. The former president of Shen Group is living on the streets, suspected of mental illness. In the accompanying picture, Shenmu was wearing a dirty shirt, sitting next to a trash can eating bread, his eyes dull like a puppet. I deleted the news and sent a message to Secretary Wang, name the coastal resort project rebirth and start construction next month. 3 years later, at the annual meeting of the Lu Group, I wore a high-end suit and stood on the spiral staircase overlooking the whole venue. Secretary Wang came over with champagne. Mr. Lu, the woman named Shen Jingyu opened a breakfast shop in the suburbs, and the business is pretty good. I raised my eyebrows. Didn't she go to see Lu Ju? It is said that she went to the prison to visit him once, and after she came out, she changed the name of the shop to Soba. The lights suddenly dimmed, and the big screen began to play a documentary about Lu's overseas expansion. The screen flashed the ruins of the Holy Family after its bankruptcy, the streets where the Virgin Mary wandered, and the back of Lu Ju planting trees in prison. These were all taken by me to remind myself and to warn all those who try to despise women. When the show was over, I passed by the rest area and heard a few young employees chatting. Have you heard about it, Mr. Lu's bride was kidnapped. Now think about it. It's a good thing that they didn't get married. Otherwise, how could we have the benefits we have today? That's right, that saint is a waste. I heard that she is still living in a mental hospital. I chuckled and pushed the door into the night. Under the neon lights in the distance, the sign of Lu Group was dazzling. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Secretary Wang. Mr. Lu, the Ben Hai resort has been completed ahead of schedule. Do you want to go and see it? I looked up at the starry sky and thought of myself who was abandoned at the wedding 5 years ago. She didn't know at that time that all setbacks were gifts from fate as long as you have enough courage to turn bad cards into royal bombs. Let's go, I replied to Secretary Wang. Let's go and see our rebirth. The night breeze brushed across my cheek, carrying the smell of the sea. The road ahead is white and bright, and I know that my era has just begun. 5 years later, the rebirth of an HAI resort has become a benchmark in the industry. I stood by the outdoor swimming pool on the rooftop, watching the cruise ship slowly sail into the port in the distance. Secretary Wang handed me a tablet computer, Mr. Liu. Xiangmu's mental hospital treatment fee has not been paid for 3 months. The hospital asked if we need to continue to advance it. I turned the emerald ring on my ring finger. It was a relic left to me by my mother according to the contract. The debt he signed, including principal and interest, is enough for him to stay in there until he dies. My eyes swept across the laughing crowd by the swimming pool and suddenly stopped on a woman pushing a baby stroller. The child in the stroller was waving his little hands. When the woman looked up, I recognized the pale face Shen Jingyu. She also saw me and her body suddenly froze. The child in the stroller suddenly cried, and she frantically searched for the bottle, but accidentally knocked over the thermos cup next to her. The hot water splashed on the baby's legs, and the child cried even more sharply. I looked at her, panicked apology, and remembered her mockery of me outside the mental hospital in my previous life. At that time, she hugged Shangmu's arm and said that I deserved to be crazy. Do you need help calling an ambulance? I walked to her side, my tone calm. She raised her head, a complex look flashed in her eyes, and finally just shook her head. No, thank you. Mr. Louis stared at her trembling fingertips and suddenly remembered the video of her being beaten by Shang Mu in the surveillance. Don't call me Mr. Liu in public in the future. I took out my business card. You can find this person if you have any problems. He will handle it. She pinched the business card. Her lips moved, but she said nothing. When I turned to leave, I heard her whisper to the child, "Baby, good. Mom will never trust men again." At the end of the year board meeting, I officially announced the launch of the Women's Entrepreneurship Support Fund. The old man coughed and flipped through the plan. Xiaoyu, you can do charity, but don't delay the business. This is not charity. I clicked on the projector, and a set of data flashed on the screen. The proportion of female entrepreneurs in the world is increasing year by year. What we invest in is not sentiment, but the future. Secretary Wang handed over the list of partners at the right time. When the old man scanned a string of multinational company logos, he finally shut up. After the meeting, I went to the prison alone. Lu Ju, half of her hair was already white, said through the iron bars, "Sister, I heard that you set up a women's fund." Well, I handed him a copy of Business Psychology. There's a photo of your daughter in it. She should be in elementary school now. His hand trembled and the book fell to the ground. I don't have a daughter. You can check after you get out of prison. I stood up. When you were aching away, the nurse who often went to the hospital to see you later gave birth to your child. Walking out of the prison gate, snow fell. The phone rang. It was Secretary Wang's urgent report. Mr. Liu, Shenjingyu's breakfast shop was splashed with paint, and the surveillance showed that it was done by Shengmu's parents. Call the police. I wrapped my coat tightly. Also, by insurance for her shop, the insurance money will be deducted from the remaining assets of the Sheng family. On New Year's Eve, I worked overtime at the company until the early morning. Outside the French window, the whole city was lit up by fireworks. Secretary Wang came in with a file in his arms, with half a piece of red wrapping paper sticking out of his suit pocket. "Mr. Liu, this is a New Year's gift for you." He opened the box and found an elegant brooch with sapphires in the shape of a butterfly. It matched the ring my mother left me. Thank you. I put on the brooch and suddenly remembered something. Shengmu's mental hospital arranged for someone to send some books regularly. He used to like pretending to be a cultured person. Secretary Wang raised his eyebrows. Is Mr. Liu trying to reform him? No, I looked at the fireworks blooming outside the window to make him know that he will never become the kind of person he wants to be. When the bell rang, I received a text message from Shen Jingyu. "Mr. Liu, thank you for your insurance. The child's burns have healed. I stared at the screen and remembered the look in her eyes. When she saw me at the resort, there was no more jealousy or resentment in her eyes, only the calmness after experiencing vicissitudes. 3 years later, on the day Luju was released from prison, I asked the driver to send him a box of books and to check. When the driver came back, he said that he stood at the prison gate for a long time and finally tore up the check and threw it into the trash can. Secretary Wang smiled and shook his head. Men in the Liu family are all stubborn. Stubborn? I flipped through the latest financial report. He should be thankful that I am more compassionate than them. It was another summer day, and I was hosting a public welfare forum at the Rebirth Resort. There were many young female entrepreneurs sitting in the audience, and one of them was a girl with a ponytail who looked particularly familiar. When she raised her hand to ask a question, I recognized the silver bracelet on her wrist. It was given to me by someone with Shen Shenzhen Yu's breakfast shop opened. After the forum, the girl caught up with me. Mr. Lu, I am Aunt Shen's daughter, Xiao Nan. If it weren't for you, we would have starved to death. Her eyes were shining. I want to be like you and be a powerful woman in the future. I looked at her energetic face and suddenly remembered that my mother held my hand before she died and said, Xiao Yu, women should live tough, just like even if they are broken by the waves, they must break with a sound. I didn't understand it at the time, but now I finally understand that true toughness is not revenge, but to turn the injuries you have suffered into armor, and then use this strength to protect more people. As dusk fell, I walked to the beach alone. The tide was over my ankles, and in the distance came the sound of a returning ship's whistle. My cell phone vibrated in my pocket, and Secretary Wang sent me a message. Mr. Liu Shangmo is dead. He died in the garden of a mental hospital with half a copy of Das Kapital in his hand. I looked at the sunset where the sea and the sky met and smiled softly. The waves brought a shell, leaving a winding trace on the beach. Just like the trajectory of fate, no matter how tortuous it has been, it will eventually be smoothed by the tide of time, leaving only the hardest part shining in the sun. The sea breeze brought a song from afar. I don't know which girl was singing, to love, to hate, to be your own light. I touched the butterfly brooch on my chest, turned and walked towards the brightly lit resort. Behind me, the tide receded. A large stretch of sandy beach gleaming with silver light was revealed. The gift from the world is like the mark I left for this era.